All right then. Oh, I have to turn off the monitor for that. There we go. That should do. Wouldn't be a stream of mine if it didn't immediately start with some technical issues. All right. It has been quite a while since I have uploaded something, since I've gone live. Turns out that I have motivation issues, which is the very reason why I started streaming. Because otherwise I would not be able to world build quite as much as I have. So, if I recall correctly, last time we talked I talked about the water issues. Like if it rains a lot in the region of A7, then it's naturally going to lead to water issues and such. And we came up with a few solutions. Well, a few solutions were mentioned, but the one that I really liked was kind of the underground rivers kind of thing. Now, let's not worry about that for a bit, because I want to talk about something related to that. Okay, so while I was offline, I had a interesting thought with that, because like you've got the surface. On the surface, you've got you've got the rivers and such, and you've got the like normal waterways and such. Then underneath that, you've got like the kind of cavernous rivers. Yeah. Went so well until it didn't. Can I draw a fish? Apparently not. There we go. So yeah, you've got the cavernous rivers. But that got me thinking. Firstly, A7 is a very volcanic area, which means that there's going to be lava tubes. Which, if you're unfamiliar with what lava tubes are, basically, if you've got lava running somewhere, generally the inside of the lava will be very hot, naturally, because it's lava. But the outside is in contact with the cold air, which means that the outside cools quicker. This generally leads to kind of almost like a crust forming over the top. And then you've basically got an insulating layer over the lava, so the lava will be able to just flow. And eventually, like when the eruption stops, because, well, in this case it would be because something gets blocked off at the front. So but on Earth, that usually happens, I think, because the volcano just stops throwing out lava. But yeah, so if it eventually stops, then the remaining lava will flow out, and what you've got remaining is basically a big old tunnel, which might have an entrance, it might not. So with A7, or well, with basically any land in this setting in the Myriad Skies being made up of almost purely volcanoes, you would probably have a lot of these magma tubes, and you'd have layers upon layers of them. You'd have old compacted cave systems that formed from lava tubes. Yeah, and also because of how volcanoes work in this setting, you would also probably have potentially old vertical lava caves, I think. I'm not too sure about that. But my point is, under the surface, there you will have a lot of cavernous spaces of a wide variety. So when one of these surface plants tries to find a lower place, it might instead stumble upon an old system, dumping all of the water that it grabs in there, creating a new river, kind of. And of course, it won't grow fast enough to populate the entire space, so it can't use all of that water itself. So any organisms and any seeds and whatnot that go through that tiny river will go into these large lava tube systems, where another one of these plants might grow, and it might try and further redirect the water so that it gets flowed through it, and find another one, until eventually you have this interconnected cave system, kinda, possibly even with like waterfalls. Now, because the water in this specific region gives off light, that means that each cave system that this water comes into has the potential of becoming a full ecosystem. Because, well, you've got soil, which will have, well, you've got ground, which can actually, because the water flows from the surface, it might very well be that sediment will settle in these places. Yeah, so yeah, you've got a variety of reasons why nutrition might arrive. You've got light from the water, you've got water from the water, and yeah, like the life from the surface can kind of just go underground and provide entire ecosystems. And so you could have like potentially lakes of this light, of this light water, like underground lakes and rivers and all that kind of stuff. And I thought that was really fascinating. Now, another interesting thing that you'll want to that I want to inform you guys of, or that I want to share with you guys, that I realized requires a little bit of explanation. I wanted to explain this earlier, but first of all, that was in a video that had that echoey sound. Let me just double check that. Yeah, so this is, by the way, what was causing that echoey sound. I had two inputs on for some reason, because I'm smart. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to explain this to you in the first episode, but I stumbled and decided to give up on it because it wasn't necessary. Now that I've been able to explain a lot more about the setting, I feel a lot more comfortable to just be able to tell this at a normal pace. So basically, as I might have told you before, the setting of the Myriad Skies is flat. I'm not sure how thick it is. You know, it probably at least a few kilometers, but I don't know exactly how thick the crust would be. Then above that is a mosaic of portals that I told you about earlier. These are the sky realms. So each of these goes into a different realm, so to speak. This is purely representational, by the way. The actual transition is seamless. Like at that edge, you go through it and you don't actually notice. But if you have gone to a different realm, but at the edge, you can kind of go like, there's that realm, and you know, kind of like if you were to have portals from the game Portal, That's kind of what it would look like, sort of. I'll explain some other time what happens when you go through the middle of that. I don't want to go on too many tangents. But yeah, so they basically all go to their own realm. Hence why the setting is called the Myriad Skies, because there's a wide range of skies. Now, underneath, there is a single large kind of portal to a different realm. This one is a realm that is incredibly hot. And yeah, it's a realm that's really hot. So there's like, yeah, hot. So another thing I need to explain to you is how gravity works in this system, because naturally, like, how would gravity work in a thing like this? Now, I could of course just go, it just works. That's boring. I didn't decide to go for that. Instead, these sky realms basically release gravity particles, or well, gravity structures. I'll stick to the proper terminology. Basically send gravity structures down towards the surface, and these hit things and give them, basically give them a downwards push, kind of, relative to gravity, relative to their weight and such. So that's how you basically get a gravity here. Everything kind of gets pushed down from the top rather than pulled in towards each other. So, for example, if in this setting, if you have two rocks of sufficient size and you throw one of them that way, it's just going to keep going that way. It's not going to orbit it because they're not attracted to each other. Gravity in this setting works quite different in that aspect. It really is just a case of the sky realms push down, or well, send structures, energy structures down that make most things go down, or at least in the direction where the gravity is pointing. So most sky realms, there are a few exceptions, but the vast majority of sky realms will have kind of the solid structures. Gravity pushes down. Liquids, gravity pushes down. Gases remains neutral. So there's generally no gas gravity, which also tends to mean that gases just kind of, they don't care whether one is heavier than the other, so they kind of mix a lot more homogeneously, I suppose. I'll have to think about some things with that. And then things like fire. This is not the prettiest fire, but wait, I can do better. There we go. That's a bit more recognizable as fire. Actually goes up. So the structures, or the energy structures, fall down, but if it hits any part of a fire material, it will apply an upwards gravity to it. So that's kind of what causes the gravity to go up. Similar with things like smoke and such. So that kind of stuff has separate properties from gas, water, and solids. I still have to figure out a lot of the specifics of this, but this is how it currently works, from my understanding. Now, of course, as these structures give off gravity, It's weakens ever so slightly, I think. No, actually, yeah, maybe, sort of. Actually, like, yeah. But at the bottom, like, solid gravity still pushes down quite significantly, and such. So it's negligible mostly. Now, what's interesting is at the bottom, this one releases almost no gravity, but it does release an upwards liquid gravity. So what that means is this very, very hot place, rocks and other stuff will fall in there from the surface. They'll enter here, melt, turn into lava, and then because the actual gravity inside of this realm is complex, it kind of goes around in like rivers and such. It will form a river and form lava falls, and this happens all over the place. So you have kind of the entire bottom of this place has these lava falls that kind of form an ocean of lava on the bottom. Now, there's an interesting... Now, if there's liquid gravity going up here, and liquid gravity going down here, then naturally there's going to be a place where there's kind of a gravity equilibrium for liquids. Now this is where very interesting things could happen in relation to this. Because if these tunnels and caves, etc., etc., go down deep enough, eventually you'll get to a place where you've got a cavernous space, water's falling in from the top, and then just kind of collects in this floating lake. We'll probably actually touch the sides. And if there's any liquid on the other side, it will fall into there as well, of course. So you have these kind of like floating liquid seas. You have these seas where if you come in from the top, you can swim to the bottom, and they kind of fall out. Although actually, because no, actually, people would probably like kind of float in here because of the liquid gravity pushing them up, because people are still mostly liquid. Which also means that being below this gravity equilibrium line is going to be very strange for people. Because basically it means that for most intents and purposes, most things are going to be upside down. Fire's going to go down. Water's still going to go down, but solids are going to go up. So you drop a pebble, and it goes up from your perspective. Actually, I can draw this. So we've got a you drop it and it goes up. Fun times. So yeah, that is one of the interesting thoughts that I had during all of this downtime. It's not very relevant to what I'm currently doing, what we're currently focusing on, which is region A7. But it's definitely something that I want to keep in mind for the future. Because it's cool. And I didn't even have to force it. Alright. Now I should probably get into the stuff proper. I've not actually prepared what I will be getting into today. Actually, let me just have a look over what I went over last time. Unstable ground, floods, that is like the water issues. Yep. Oh. I missed. Cool. Yep, that's the river stuff. Deep roots. Yeah. Stabilizing stuff. That. Alright. Ah, yeah. So last time we were also talking about cultivation. And the kinds of species that denied cultivation, that try to exist around cultivation. So I imagine that, where's my diagram of the underground? There's the diagram. I imagine that because the walking nests are so big, just a generic animal, they would not have a lot of input on what happens underground, and would mostly be affecting the above ground stuff. So the creatures, etc., that live separate from the cultivation of the walking nest would mostly be living underground, I imagine, or would come from the underground, or have part of their life cycle underground. This would mean that there is still plenty of possibility for, you know, naturally developed life rather than cultivated life. Which means that, yeah, Lo still absolutely have a reason to be stealthy at times, which is something that we touched upon last time. Basically, Lo have a kind of dark green skin color, which fits within the quote-unquote wavelength of the green types of light that don't appear in the light rain of region A7. I have lost track of everything. There we go. Because I've started screwing with scale. Oh yeah, I did mention before that there were lava things in the ocean on the bottom. Yeah. So yeah, there's still definitely a valid reason for Lore to be green, even though originally it was a completely arbitrary, well, almost completely arbitrary choice. I will admit that one of the considerations behind the skin colors was I wanted to veer away as much as possible from skin colors that can be associated with human skin colors, because I did not want, well, I plan to feature topics such as racism and such in this setting, and I did not want anything connecting the racism in this setting with real life racism, if that makes sense. So I figured I should make them not associable with real life ethnicities as a precaution, because I don't think I'm quite qualified to deal with those things in a respectful enough manner. Another thing that I wanted to say about this whole thing, about the setting of the mirror, so this lava ocean is actually what is keeping the landscape up. It's actually you could say precariously balancing on a lava sea, but because these the ocean is so plentiful, it's basically not going to affect anything in a bad way. And also, the reason why it doesn't tip over is because on the sides are basically portals that link them to the other side. Hence why if you're standing here and you look this way, you see this. In effect, it is one long continuous surface that kind of just loops around. So there's no edge to this. Hence, there's no place where this can just kind of like rotate and turn around. And the lava also like the volcanoes that you see is actually the lava from this place poking through in places. So you've basically got cracks, like, yeah, things, whatever you want to call them, poking through, which allows for lava to come through and form these islands. So the lava does keep going through there because of the pressure from the ocean, but the lava can't really like fully crack this open and just come gushing out, letting this fall through and such, so because of the liquid gravity up above. I think if there's mistakes in my thinking in this aspect, I'd love to hear from you. Wait, oh, I got out the chat. Not that there is a chat, but you know, like to be open to the possibility. All right. Okay, so now I'm thinking. I'm kind of thinking what I need to do next. Let me just have a quick look at one of the maps again, I guess. Okay. Okay, maybe not quite like that. Might I please open you? Also, the language that you see this in is Te Reo Maori. I switched my desktop to be Te Reo Maori because I wanted to learn Te Reo Maori. Te Reo Maori is the language of the indigenous people of New Zealand. So if none of it makes sense, that's why. At the moment, it also doesn't actually make all that much sense to me. But I challenge myself in that manner. Okay. Okay, navigating this is still a bit of a hassle. Did I move a river? How did I paste that? Oh. I'm just having a few things here. on what I should be doing next. I'm thinking of having a look at cultures. Let me just check some notes. Okay. So yeah, here you can see a realm A, both in the pixelated version and one of the vector versions. I'll have to update it at some point. You know what? I'll probably at some point also just do art sessions with art in heavy quotation marks, because yeah, I need to work on the map as well and stuff. So that's probably also something I can do. So here I'll just go over what this is. So this is a page with notes about A7, specifically for the cultural stuff. So I wanted to figure out how many people can roughly live in there. So I did a bunch of looking around places. I don't really want to call it research too much. I did actually at some point calculate how big that is. So yeah, 333,200 square kilometers is roughly how big A7 is. So that's quite sizable. I forget what it's comparable to, but oh well. So yeah, I basically looked into hunter-gatherer stuff. Now, the max possible population that I calculated for this, based on various sources, I always forget my sources, so apologies for that. But I'm not in academia in this area, so I don't need to cite my sources. If you are in academia, cite your sources, please. So yes, it's the max population is about 2.7 million. I probably won't go for that. I believe I went for this one, which is good population density, because it's still a tropical area, especially with the cultivation. I might potentially go a bit higher than that, but I don't think I will. I might go a little bit higher than that, but yeah. So yeah, A7 probably has about a population capacity for hunter-gatherers of about 222,000. Oh wait, here's what I went for. Yeah. So each person has so it's like 1.5 kilometers per person. They're obviously going to be a bit clustered. So there's 150 square kilometers for 100-person groups is basically what I've assigned it as. Because yeah, 100-person groups seem to be kind of like a reasonable amount, and they'll be able to, I believe. Wait a moment, let me just let's see, square root of how much? 150. I think I did something wrong. There we go. So that's about like 12 kilometers by 12 kilometers. So yeah, it takes about 2 hours walking for someone to cover that entire area, which, like, assuming 6 kilometers an hour walking, which seems reasonable. Like that's perfectly reasonable for a population to kind of like hold in their domain. Yeah. But of course, at the very start, it's not actually going to be that quick. Yeah, I figured an average would be of like 60 people per group. So this is like the hunter-gatherer kind of grouping still. There will be more, there will be less. So yeah, I figured out that at its hunter-gatherer height, it'll have about 3,702 notable social groupings. Of course, I can't world build out all of those. There's going to be generalization in the form of like culture groups amongst those. But as you can see at the bottom, the initial population is going to be a lot less. It's going to be about 1,963 of the walking nest population. So then if you've got 12, so add another 720 to the others. 12 is a completely arbitrary number, by the way. So this amount, I'm just thinking because I mean, it doesn't matter too much if I go over things that I've gone over before, right? You guys hopefully don't mind. Anyway, I don't actually think I have finished off talking about the origin story of the law. I might have, if not, too bad. You're hearing it again. All right. So basically, the walking nest. Guess this is going to be in red. It lives for a really long time, but at one point, it does die. When it does, it is an absolutely cataclysmic situation. But the law will survive coming from it and will spread throughout the land. So at the time of the death of the walking nest, there will be 1,963 people of that on that nest. Once those initial days or weeks or months are going to be quite hard for the people because although they have the skills to survive in this place, they might not be in the state to do so. They might. It's also a very traumatic thing because everyone is kind of like cut off from each other. They no longer share their minds. They no longer are a single entity. They they won't ever be again, these individuals. And to them, like it's I think the best way to describe this would kind of be if your brain that's a brain, don't question it. If your brain were to suddenly split up into its two halves, which can't talk anymore, except through, well, except for actually talking. Yes. That's kind of what this is, except on the scale of almost like just over 1900 people. Like it's, and also a lot of the other parts of the brain of the single mind are just dying. And I imagine that in the lead up to this, like I don't think that the link would be the thing that dies first. So they'd probably feel this kind of illness going through. Um, before before anything. Yeah. And I'll eventually figure out like the specifics of it. I say this so much. Um, but yeah, like they basically split up, and it'll be traumatic for quite a lot because they very well realize the implications of this. It's basically a case of like they're never going to be whole again. They are always going to be. It'll go from having had perfect ability to communicate to now having to use language, which, although great, is not nearly as great as shared thought when it comes to sharing ideas and such. So, yeah, that's, and yeah, like the immediate area where this walking nest falls will not be able to support the full population. And even the death of the walking nest will lead to deaths of individuals. So by the time before they get to like figure out where they can go, like how to survive and such, there is going to be quite a few people who die. Like I've just picked a random number basically of about 400-ish people who will end up dying before things stabilize. Now, this may seem like quite a high number, and it is, but you have to remember that Law before the Walking Nest died, Law shared their minds, so they know what the others know to an extent, and so they know how to survive out in the wild, because of all of the expeditions that have been gone out from via Law. So they already have an understanding of how to survive. It's just a case of they have to organize themselves in a sense that they will be splitting up. And they have to do so and then travel for quite a significant amount of time before they can find regions where they can be safe, where they can actually survive. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I think I'm actually going to make this one a bit of a shorter one. It's in part because, well, I've got some things that I need to be doing. But still, hopefully this shorter one means that it's easier to watch. That it was easier to watch. But yeah, so I think I will actually say farewell. And I will try to make the next one be. Wait, whatever happened to the music anyway? Guess it didn't load. There we go. Yeah. I'll try and make sure to have the next stream be a lot earlier. honestly, this one was mostly because of, like, I don't know, mental stuff. I'm sure some of you will know what it can be like. But yeah, I will continue to try and stream regularly and keep this world building stuff up. Because, yeah, it's quite enjoyable and I like sharing my world. And if you guys like watching, yeah, feel free to comment and all sorts of things. Anyway, yeah, so I think that will be it for today's stream. Thank you very much for watching,